Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Girl with the Shovel. Today we are going to be propagating Aglaonema, also known as Chinese Evergreen. So today I wanted to start off by debunking a common myth that got really big. It is leaf propagations of Aglaonema. So there was some like, yeah, it can happen, yeah, it can't. So I did my own experiment here. And here is my leaf cutting. And it's just about dead. It failed. Just about dead. Here are some with the leaf petioles still on it. And yeah, there's nothing there. It's just a brown edge, no tissue, undifferentiated tissue. It's kind of like the scar tissue, but plant version, which is awesome. Yeah, nothing is happening here. So I am going to say that that one is myth busted, does not work. If you have ever done it, you let me know in the comments below and maybe I can update this video. But as of right now, I'm saying that this leaf propagation for Aglaonema does not work. Okay, now I will say what will work. What will work is if you have a portion of the stem. So what I mean by the stem is there's a difference between the leaf petiole, which is this kind of portion that a lot of people think is a stem, but it's actually this portion which has these little bumps on it, which are the nodes. Okay, you need some stem tissue and you need some nodes if you're going to take a successful cutting. Now I will say this is different from offshoot separation, where you have lots of different stems in the soil and you pretty much rip it apart or cut it apart and then you have two new plants. Okay, we're not going to do that today. Today we're going to be taking cuttings and rooting them. So step one is to take a good cutting. Okay, I'm going to be using my white edge Aglaonema here. I know it's a big one, so I hope it fits in here. So the white edge Aglaonema, this one has gotten a little leggy. I've had it in low light and I want to have it more full down below. So I'm going to cut off the stem or the tip, and then it will start growing more leaves down below because it suddenly doesn't have the growing point at the top. Okay, and then I'm going to propagate those, replant it in, fill it out a little bit more. So first, let's get a good cutting. I'm going to get it from this one here. So I'm going to get my clippers. I would say scissors work, but this one is a little too thick. Some of the smaller ones, like my other Aglaonema, you can get away with the scissors, but this one is much too thick, so I'm gonna have to use my clippers here. So for this, I'm going to remember we need at least one node, and I know that there's a portion coming out of the tip. The tip will be a growing point, but I also want one down below where we can get roots out of. Okay, and then we also have one down here. I'm gonna remove this leaf. Okay, and then you can see there will be a little raised bump here where the node will be. Okay, so you'll have those underneath the leaves. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut it down here. And now I have my cutting. Okay, and I have a nice node right here where I can start getting some roots from. I've also got a node in the back here, one right here. So those are my leaf nodes, and then we also have the growth point out of the tip. So technically we only need one leaf node, but having a few extras doesn't hurt. So step number 2 is we are going to let our cutting dry. Okay, so this tip here is really soft and wet, and we want to let it dry, kind of like a scab over, to keep all of that bad bacteria from coming in while it's having moisture and it's going into either soil or water. So I would leave this out for about a day or so. Next, if you're going to be water propagating, you'll just need a little jar. Here's my water. And then simply put it in. And now I'm actually going to remove some of these leaves because this is a lot of leaves. However many leaves you have, that root system has to support. And right now we don't have a root system, so it can't support a lot of leaves. Okay, so I'm going to take off a few of these leaves. So now that our stem cutting is ready, let's imagine we've waited 24 hours, and then all we do is we place it in the water. Okay, done. And then place it somewhere where it doesn't get direct sunlight, so like a medium light or next to a bright window, but we don't want to overheat it, especially while it doesn't have many roots. And then we can come back in a few weeks. Here's what that'll look like. So here are some cuttings that I've propagated a couple months ago. I really need to repot these. They are so ready to go into some soil. But here is what it looks like. So we've got some nice roots here. This one especially. So we've got some nice roots. That'll even out once I get it in a bigger container. And you can see we've got some nice new leaves here, a new leaf coming out that tip. So it is going to be fabulous. This one as well. And then we can plant them together in the same pot, and it'll fill out really nicely and it'll look just great. So then once your cutting has rooted in your water, then you'll want to put it into soil. Or like what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to go straight into soil. Okay, for this we're going to use some rooting powder. Now we don't have to use rooting powder because Aglaonema already kind of roots pretty easy. So it's not necessary. You can if you want. It could speed things up and potentially have more roots. But either way, if you don't have any on hand, don't worry about it. So I put some in my jar here and I'm just going to dab that around and get those leaf joints covered in that rooting hormone. Those nodes, I mean. Now I have a pot with a good light, well-draining mix. It's a coconut coir perlite mix. That's all I've gotten here. And I'm going to go ahead and make a hole here, put it in, and then I'm going to give it some water. So we're going to give it a little bit of a break, go easy on it while it's still getting its roots in, put it in about medium light, and then in a few weeks there should be roots. Now I wanted to show off a few of these Aglaonemas that I have already propagated. Okay, so this one was, honestly, it was damaged by my dog and it was already kind of getting a little leggy. So I went ahead and I cut the tip off. So you can see I cut the tip off here and now it's starting to grow new leaves over here and it's starting to activate these lower leaf nodes here. Okay, so that one in particular. And then this one as well. They were in the same pot and I separated them and I cut the tip off and now I have nice leaves coming out of the lower branches here. Okay, so that is going to fill out really nicely now that I removed that growing point that was going up and now it's sending out down lower. And then I propagated the leaf tips. So in here, I'm sure you noticed, we have the tip that I cut off and then I potted it right in with it. And so here we have the leaf tip that is really taking off here and it's got some gorgeous new growth coming out the tip and it is just doing fabulously. And then I also potted up a tip over here. This, the lower leaves kind of, you can see how long these are, how leggy that this guy got. So these tips, these leaves can just be removed here. And now we have a gorgeous Aglaonema coming out of here. And it's got a great leaf tip here that's growing. And we're getting some nice color on these leaves. So I'm pretty happy with that. So then at the end of the day, I'm going to pot all these up into the same pot. And they're going to look really great. So that's the first tip that I have for you, is if your Aglaonema starts getting a little leggy, a little tall, doesn't have those lower leaves on it, you can consider propagating the tip. Okay, so like I did here, we cut off the tip and then we propagate the tip into the pot again. We could put it in a separate pot and then move it in later. But doing that will really help that lower stem reactivate in a way. So it'll start saying, hey, we don't have any leaves here. We got to start growing some. And so it'll take those dormant nodes and it will start growing out of those down lower on the stem. So that's how you revive a leggy, kind of older Aglaonema. The next tip that I have for you today is make sure that you're using some sharp scissors, some sharp hand pruners, or maybe a knife. You don't want to crush the ends of the stems there. And then my last tip for you is if the bottoms of your cuttings are starting to get mushy and yellow, this means that we have some bacteria inside. So how you fix this is you really need to dry out your cutting. Now, I didn't show it today because obviously I don't want to make you sit around for 24 hours, but you need to dry it out for, a few hours at least. Okay, you want to make sure that that cut end is dry because that will keep all of that bacteria from coming into your cutting. Now, this doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. So if this is happening to you, then dry it out for longer next time. Okay, and then last tip, I wanted to mention that this techniques work for all different types of Aglaonema. It works for our pink Aglaonemas like these. It works for our whites like the one that I just used. And it also works for greens and reds. It works for all different varieties of Aglaonemas. So whatever kind you have, these will work. That's it for my video. Hope you liked it. Hope you can get some nice tips and tricks on how to propagate your Chinese evergreen. If you want even more tips and tricks, check out my website. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find even more tips on how to propagate your Aglaonema. As well as if you like this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss another video. So good luck with your cuttings, good luck with your Chinese evergreen, and I will see you in the next video.